Okay, so what I'm looking at here is a draft of our Week 6 homepage. It's mostly sketched in, so I can at least show you that activities are going to be due throughout the week instead of everything due on Wednesday the 17th, because this activity will only work if people are participating in it throughout the week. As I said in a previous video, this activity is designed to be played in a single 75-minute in-class setting, and so we're sort of stretching it out as a discussion activity over a week, and it's essential that people are regularly contributing instead of saving it for the end. So pay attention to those due dates. Okay, I'm going to focus on this part. So the thing you've just been doing is the activity prep, and when you go to actually complete the role play, participate in the debate, you'll click this link, and that takes you to a page in Canvas. And the setup here is a series of Padlets. This should work pretty flawlessly, is my hope, because everything is set up in Canvas, and it's just like little discussion boards that you can add to. So I'm going to quick scroll down through them just to show you what's here, and then I'll come back and say a little bit more about each of the components of the activity. So we have session 1, introduction and opening statements, so everybody should post a brief intro and their opening statement here by Friday morning. There is a spot to make public announcements. Between sessions 1 and 2, your role sheet should guide you to the decision to make a public announcement, and it should kind of make sense whether it would be near the beginning or after debate has already occurred. As you can see, there's already one announcement posted here. Then we have the next session, session 2, which is general discussion. Another place to make public announcements. And then session 3 is where we need to collaborate and ultimately decide on a final aid proposal that we can bring to a vote. Once we've gotten to this stage and people have posted here and we're getting closer to our final vote, I will post an additional space under this discussion board with a voting mechanism, so we can I'll have embedded a way to vote on stuff, and we won't worry too much about getting that vote in by the Wednesday 8 a.m. deadline, but I'll be on your case to finish up the activity and vote soon so we can know who won. But by then all of the actual content will have been contributed. So now let's scroll back to the top and look at each of the discussion boards a little bit more closely. Okay, so you've already read the basic handout that describes the setup of the game and the gameplay, and hopefully you've read your role. Now, usually, again in the in-class version of this, you'd get this role in class, you'd kind of have to make sense of it pretty quickly, and we would jump into the activity. Session 1 is just to introduce who you are, who you represent. Do you represent a country, or do you represent one of the non-governmental organizations, an aid organization? And if you represent an aid organization, maybe you need to say a little bit about the mission of that organization, and then state what your goals are, and maybe your initial core position or something like that is for this conference, and it can be very brief. Now, I'm playing a role in this activity as well. This role is something I usually assign to a student, but I've decided to take the sort of moderator role on myself. So I'm representing a non-governmental organization, the Eugene Bell Centennial Foundation, and I'm the one who has essentially called this conference to order. I've been selected to moderate the conference, and so it's my task to welcome you all to the Musgrove Conference, and that's what I did in my little intro here. I welcome you, I say a little bit about the organization that I represent, and I've briefly stated my goal. Mine is longer than I would guess the average one will be, because it's my task to welcome everybody and I describe my organization. So it's fine if yours is shorter, The goal here is just to post who you are and what your brief opening position, hopes and dreams, whatever are. Now I've organized the board. These are vertical, so if you want to add something, if you're an NGO, you'll add here, and there's a title and a write something. Notice I put instructions here, so follow the instructions, but just post here if you're the next NGO. The next NGO can post here. And there is a way to scroll over. There should be a scroll bar at the bottom, but because of my viewing, I can't show you that. So you can see there's a place for the Japanese, South Korean, and American representatives and Chinese and European Union and North Korean representatives to add their intros and opening statements. Now, if you are a representative of North Korea, you're not actually at the conference. And so when you post here, what we're going to do is take this as not you speaking up in the conference, but something you've said publicly. So you would be aware of the conversations taking place here, maybe because you're in private negotiations with attendees, or you have people who are sort of reporting back to you, and we would sort of know your position and who you are because of things you've said in public. So that's how we'll interpret the representatives of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea who are posting here. Okay, so get this in ASAP. It says it's due Friday, 3/12. This is something you can contribute nearly right away. Once you've had a chance to digest your role and make sense of your basic position and who you are, get your intro posted. This is not supposed to be a major task. So just get it done. Now, if you have an announcement that you want to make early on, I'm not sure that anyone does except for this general announcement made by the game master, which is me, posted here, but then feel free to move on to session 2 immediately if you can. This will require some prep work, so in the rest of the game prep tutorial homework 6 activity, we'll work on prepping for the game, and so you'll want to do a bit of prep work before you get started here, but don't hesitate to jump in even if you don't feel like you're fully prepped. The goal of general discussion is to start, making claims, maybe start with your, what kind of plan of action, aid program you would recommend right off the bat, or maybe if you just have a hesitation, like I think there should be preconditions on the aid. What kinds of preconditions are you? Just start getting the claims you want on the table into the general discussion. And here again are the instructions. You want to make bite-sized arguments. Don't create like your whole extended argument in a single post-it note. Instead, try to make it make as much sense as possible. Now, as a lot of people start adding in their little post-it notes here, you can expand horizontally. So if you start moving a post-it note over, you can expand how wide this thing is. It'll go infinite scroll. So try not to put your stickies on top of each other so they're all legible. It is possible to move stuff around, and feel free to move other people's around. If you notice people's claims go together, feel free to organize the board and make it your own. We're all collaborating on this together, and our goal is to have a discussion where we are connecting with each other. Now, there are a couple of ways to engage with what other people post. You can up-down vote just to indicate support or things you disagree with, and then you can actually add comments to because I think I'm in edit mode, I can't add comments on this, but you'll have the ability to add comments on this. So add comments to support, share relevant facts or info, add objections, or even just ask questions. Okay? So that's the general discussion board. After people have been discussing a bit, you might want to post an announcement after some discussion has happened. And then finally, this is where you're going to post your final main claim and argument map. Now, ideally, you've started mapping your reasoning before or as you are engaging in this discussion, and then revising it as you move towards the end of the activity, so that your argument reflects the kinds of things that came up in discussion, especially potential objections to what you are arguing. If you didn't think of them up front, but they got brought up in the discussion, they should be a part of your map. So you'll post your final sort of main claim and map to this section, and then we'll work together, collaborate to narrow in on what is the final proposal that will be successful and that we can get everyone here to support, hopefully. And once you've narrowed in on what that proposal is, I'll put up a poll to vote on it. Now, I'll be here all along moderating and helping too. I'm in the game. I'm a role in the game. I will engage with your arguments, I'll post my own stuff, and I will try to help us organize these discussions and connect with each other. Now, the last thing that I want to add about this activity is that in addition to participating in these discussion boards, which are all on a single Canvas page, in addition to participating in these discussion boards, I recommend using Pronto. So you can create your own groups in Pronto. If you are a representative of a country, maybe create a group for you and your other representatives. And then if you have special in-game objectives that require holding private meetings with other people in the game, create a Pronto channel and invite them. In general, if there's any tool for communicating or connecting or making things happen, just make it work. Our goal is to have a successful discussion where we complete, we're able to sort of reason with each other, get as much on the table as possible, and then each of us on our own organize that into a plan of action, share them all here, and then home in on where there's the most agreement and come up with a final plan of action that we'll vote on. That's the plan, and this is what it'll look like.